Hey, it's Jay Foss. Today I'm going to talk about Clash of Knights prep and sort of what top 1,000 runs look like. This will include some examples, including how often you're fleeing, teams, the weapons you need to make going into it, and all that. And again, this is more geared toward top 1,000 runs, but a lot of the concepts apply if you try to push it a little higher. So let's get into it. So starting with the rare. For rare, it's pretty much set in stone for blue right now because Nordry's got the elemental defense debuff for the minus defense to ice. And Gunner has regular minus defense and shared damage. Now, this is what I've been using. Most people don't use Gato. But Costume Gunner is the big one, and Nordry's the other big one. I like Costume Ulmer for the attack boost. And at the end here, you will usually see Chick Jr. and then one of the versions of Karil. The costume has slightly higher tile damage, and the regular has slightly higher special damage, but they both fit the role. And when we go into examples later, you'll see I have Karil with the big troop, the higher attack troop, because he's the one who gets mana at the end when you're trying to finish the bosses off, especially on the later stages. So for the items, these are the items that pretty much everyone uses to do the rare part of Clash of Knights. To prep, I'd have 75 to 100 of each of these just for rare. That way you can get, you have enough for some replays when you're improving your score later on in the week. So really the only one that I don't have pictured here that you'd probably consider would be using regular Karil instead of costume, and then Chick Jr. But those are the main heroes used for rare. Alright, moving on to epic. Similar setup. You have your minus defense with your shared damage. You have your elemental defense. I have Scarlet in there for her really high attack, but a lot of people use Costume Colin. I have Lancelot for his buff. Mostly his buff. For plus attack and plus mana. And then in this situation, Cillian, if that's how you say it, gets the mana at the end. He gets the highest attack troop. You can also use, theoretically, green and blue for this. If for some reason you're missing one of these heroes, green would be something like Dolgoon, Almer, and Marcel, and then some hitters, and then blue would be Costume Gunner, Nordry, and that would be we'd have to start with, but the red is, I still think, the best. Now with the 4-star level, you may see Franz. Franz is the green hero from Clash of Knights. You may see him impact the leaderboard a little bit, and potentially a lot even, but you can, last time with the red team I had pictured, you could already one move beat all the stages. I'm not saying Franz can't help. He definitely could, and I'd level him regardless, but so you might see him make an impact, probably taking Lancelot's spot, or potentially the Scarlet Costume Colin spot. So for the items, same thing. I'd have 75 to 100 of each of these items just for epic. And if you're looking at what troop it is, it's for red, it's Barbaric Maulers. That's the one that most people will use for event ranking because it has high attack and a little bit of crit to help out the tiles. So Alright, that's a brief overview of Epic, and moving on to Legendary. Moving on to Legendary, most people will use Red and Gazelle, or just Red. I don't have Costume, Mariana, or any of the key red heroes basically for this, so I just use blue. You could also use green, because green technically has shared damage 2 within a 3-star, and hard hitting hit 3 in Quenelle, so you can use blue, red, or green. Red's probably the most popular though. I have Frida firing. I fire left to right. I have Frida firing before Gunner because I don't want Frida to dispel Gunner's shared damage. The last 2 times I've used Finley, but I think I'm gonna emblem up Costume Grim. I think that'll help my hit 3 on the end. And I have Bobo to get that really big minus defense of, I believe, 60%. I actually accidentally limit broke Bobo, but I do use him a lot. I mean, I really did accidentally do it. I had just finished leveling him and misclicked. And yeah. Anyway, at least he's useful for a few things. But that's what I use. You can kind of picture what it looked like with Red. You know, you'd have your Wilbur, a Costume Mariana, and then at the end you'd have Asterius or Kagan, you know, something like that at the end that hits 3 and hits hard. And the same thing with green. You'd have, you know, Dolgoon and Evelyn, and at the end you'd have Quenelle, and maybe throw an attack booster in there. So it's the same format for all these. You need the shared damage, you need the elemental defense, you need the minus defense, and then you need a hero that hits 3 hard on the end. Now, these are the items I use. Some people use axes instead of the littler mana pot, but this is what I use for Legendary for items. And again, I'd have 75 to 100 of these each for going through Clash of Knights Legendary. Now, last time I made a short video doing some example runs of each of the tiers with the fleeing included, so you can get an idea of how long it takes. I didn't at the time ever think it was going to be posted, so it's a little rough around the edges, but I'll add that to the end so you can kind of see examples of what, you know, top 1,000-ish runs look like. Hey, it's JFoss. I threw together some hastily made examples of what I would predict would be top 1,000 runs, but maybe not. It's hard to say with the changes, but this will include the failures to get an idea of, like, you know, how much you're fleeing and all that. This is just the first level for rare. Big thing is just don't waste items on bad runs, and try to get a decent combo and go fast. You gotta finish before the burn and attack down kicks in or whatever to get a decent score. Again, these are not the runs I'm doing for going for top 100, but these should be okay examples of how to get relatively solid scores fast. Alright, now that seems okay. I think I got, yeah, that should be fine. For Epic, I did one of the easier ones to level 4 or 3 or something like that. I mean, ideally, I'd want some guys to charge on these first couple moves, too. So you'll see me throw away some okay runs. Or may, especially on Legendary, throw away some okay runs. Because you want the combos and you want some mana as well. I saw a few reds, so I risked it to waste the mana potion. And I'll have 2 more red matches here, potentially. Iron items out on the second wave. And then it's just basically getting all your buffs and debuffs in. If you're doing a harder level and you needed more, then, you'd mana the hit 3 on the end, like Karil, Cillian, Kagan, something like that, depending on difficulty. Alright, Legendary is the hardest. And you may not have the items stockpiled, but I use blue mostly on Legendary because I don't have Costume Mariana, and I just recently got my first Kagan, so I don't even really have like a 5-star red that hits 3 hard. So I got a few blue there, but the combos weren't great. Well, they improved, but I would still look for, at least a 3 or 4 average combo. Keep in mind, you can have a great combo of 9, but then if your next 2 moves are only a combo of 1, then you're at 3.67 average combo, so just keep that in mind too. If you get that giant combo on the first move, then don't make another one unless you have to. And the combo doesn't necessarily have to be in the color you bring, it's just easier on the harder levels because you'll need some of that tile damage. I don't normally gamble this much with the mana potions. I'm just was trying to go through quickly and get some examples. Like if I was doing this for my own individual rank, I wouldn't even use a mana potion on Legendary until I could have a starting diamond. Of course, if you're waiting for, in this case, a blue diamond on 10 levels, that could be 10, 15 total flask by the end. So red is probably the more popular color if you have it, but the shared damage now, it comes in 3 colors, so I think you could use any of those 3. And if you're looking at my firing order, I have Frida before Gunner because I don't want Frida to dispel Gunner's shared damage. Since shared damage is technically treated as a buff, even though Gunner's applying it. So I got my blue diamond, yay, in business for sure for a top 1000 run. If the combos aren't terrible, and because the speed will be good at least. I probably didn't need to have to give Frida mana there, but All right, there's some examples of potentially top 1,000 runs. You see, there weren't crazy amounts of attempts, a handful. You'd expect 5 to 10 attempts. If you're fleeing, it goes fast. If you're fleeing on the bad ones, it goes fast. So, hope this helps.